Hello and welcome to the Career Change Studio. This is the place to design and create a new working life so that you can live the way that you want and need in your next chapter. I'm Dana Stevens, certified career change coach, and I'm here to help you work out your next career move. I'm going to inspire you to think about this transition in brand new ways so that you can think differently about yourself and what's possible for you. You'll also learn how to build up your belief and self-confidence so that you can finally start taking action. This is about so much more than just getting another job. This is about changing the way you live your life for the better. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. So I wanted to start today's show with something that happened on the school run last week because it really got me thinking, and I had one of those unexpected little moments of clarity that I want to share with you. I was driving my son to school and the sun was out, which in itself has been quite rare. So it was that early spring sun that hits you through the windscreen and you just think, oh, finally. And I do love this time of year. Hot cross buns, daffodils. It's my birthday in spring as well. But when you get that smell in the air that just says spring is here, I just love that feeling. And I said something like that out loud to him. I was like, isn't it just amazing to see the sun? I'm so pleased it's almost spring. I really love it. And my son said, yeah, but winter's great too. What about Christmas? Christmas is a big deal in our house. I was like, yeah, I love Christmas too. He was like, what about cozy days on the sofa, lazy days with the heated blanket? He loves snuggling under the heated blanket. And I was laughing because he's right. Winter is great. And I told him, you know what? You are completely right. You can absolutely love the season you've just been in, and you can be a little sad that some of it's over, but you do get to still genuinely look forward to what's coming to next. We had a whole discussion about it. And the thing that I kept coming back to on that drive that we talked about was the fact that the secret to being happier and more content is learning to be present in the season you're actually in, knowing that it won't last, right? Because it won't last, that's the whole point. Seasons don't last. They're not meant to. And that's not a sad thing. That's actually a really freeing thing when you let it be. And I want to talk to you today about what that means for your career, your life, and the change that you've been thinking about making. Because I think this one shift in perspective, thinking about your life as a series of seasons rather than one long continuous story, might just change everything about how you're approaching yours. Here's what I want to start with, and I want you to really sit with this because for a lot of women that I work with, and probably for you listening right now, the new season has already started, right? It probably began a while ago, actually. Perhaps you just haven't fully given yourself permission to acknowledge it yet. And I say that with lots of understanding because I do know why. Acknowledging that you've moved into a new season already means admitting that the old one is over. And that can feel like a loss, even when the old season wasn't even making you happy anymore. And here's how you know that the season has already changed. Here's what I see in the women who come to me and what I want you to listen out for in yourself. The things that used to motivate you, maybe the promotions or the status or the salary or the achievement, they just don't fire you up the way they used to. You might still be doing all of it, maybe even doing all of it well, but the fuel behind it has gone. It feels like just going through the motions. The version of success that you've been chasing, the one you probably decided on somewhere in your 20s or early 30s, has quietly stopped fitting you now. But because nobody told you that was allowed to happen, you might still be chasing it anyway, wondering why you don't feel as good as you thought you would when you got there. Your life circumstances have probably changed. Maybe you've had kids, or your kids have grown older, or you've had a health wake-up call, or a relationship in your life has changed, or you've lost someone, or you've just reached a point where you're looking around at your life and thinking, this was built for a different version of me, a version of me that doesn't quite exist anymore. Your values have shifted. What matters to you now is genuinely different to what mattered to you 10 years ago. Maybe it's about more time, more meaning, more alignment between how you live and who you are. If any of that resonates, and I'm guessing at least some of it does, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast, then what I want you to hear is this. The season has already changed. The question is simply whether you're going to acknowledge it or keep trying to live in a season that's already over. Knowing that your season has changed and actually stepping into a new one, those are two very different things. And I want to talk to you about why the gap between them can feel so wide. Because resisting a new season doesn't mean that you're weak or wrong or irrational or somehow doing life wrong. It actually is a completely human response. And I think there are a few reasons why it happens. The first is identity. So much of who we think we are gets wrapped up in what we do. If you've spent 15, 20 years or longer being a teacher or a lawyer or a marketing director, that's not just a job title. It's part of how you introduce yourself to others. It's part of how you explain yourself to the world. And leaving it behind means, for a period of time, not quite knowing who you are without it. And that is genuinely uncomfortable. It's supposed to be, but it is temporary. The second is grief, and this is one I don't think we talk about enough when it comes to career change. Even if the season you're leaving behind wasn't great, even if you've been miserable, burnt out, bored, there are still things in it that you value. Colleagues you loved, skills you were proud of, a version of yourself you worked hard to build, to create. Leaving a season means letting some of that go, at least in its current form, and we need to make space to acknowledge that loss, rather than just skipping over it or pretending it's not happening. And the third, and this is a big one for most people, is fear. Specifically the fear that the next season won't be as good, that you'll get it wrong, that you'll give something up and end up worse off, that the leap into the unknown won't land. And so it feels safer, even if it's more painful, to stay in the known discomfort of the season you're in, rather than risk the unknown of the one that's really waiting for you. But here's what I know. Staying in a season that's already over has its own cost. And that cost is paid slowly, quietly, but often every single day. And maybe you're already feeling it now. I want to talk for a moment about what it actually feels like to be living in a season that's already moved on. Because I think if we can name it, acknowledge it, it becomes easier to recognize and easier to decide to do something about. It's this kind of, it's a particular kind of exhaustion, right? A tiredness that comes from not being overworked, although that's often there as well, but it's more like the exhaustion of misalignment, of showing up every day as a version of yourself that no longer quite fits, of doing work that used to make sense and just doesn't anymore, of performing a role professionally, sometimes personally, that was written for someone you used to be. And many of my clients tell me that they feel like they're wearing a mask. Maybe that's you feeling like you're not yourself at work anymore, or maybe just not yourself anytime anymore. And it shows up as a kind of low-level restlessness, a sense that something is off that you can't quite name, a feeling of going through the motions, counting down to weekends, living for that holiday you've booked 6 months ago, finding it harder and harder to remember why you're doing what you're doing, just feeling really unmotivated every day. And because it often creeps up slowly, you don't always notice it arriving. You might just notice one day that the energy you used to bring to your work, it isn't there anymore. That the ambition has quietly left the building. You might be technically fine doing the job, keeping the plate spinning, or maybe for you it feels like you're dropping some, but something underneath it has gone hollow. And that hollow feeling is useful information. Don't ignore it. It's your life telling you that the season has changed and it's time to pay attention. I know how scary it can be to sit with that, but I also want to be honest, because the longer you stay in a season that's already over, the further away the new one can feel. Not because it is actually further away, but because the gap between who you are now and the life you're living gets wider. And that gap takes energy to maintain, energy you could be putting into something new. So let's talk about the thing that I think takes more pressure off that than almost anything else that I share with clients. When you're thinking about changing careers, when you're trying to figure out what's next, most people unconsciously are approaching it as though they need to find the answer, the final answer, the perfect, forever, one size fits the rest of my life decision. And that framing just can make everything feel impossibly high pressured, high stakes. Because if this is the forever decision, you absolutely cannot get it wrong. So you're researching, you're overthinking, you're going round in circles and waiting for this certainty that never comes. And months go by, sometimes years, and nothing changes because the bar you've set for yourself is impossible to clear. But what if you're not making a forever decision? What if you're just making the right decision for this next season of your life? You are not deciding what you'll be doing for the rest of your working life. You're deciding what makes sense for this next chapter. And that is a completely different question. Think about it. If you're in your 40s, you probably have at least 20 years of working life ahead of you. And 20 years is not even just one season, right? That's multiple seasons. Which means whatever you decide now does not have to last forever. It just has to be right for now, for this version of you, in this stage of your life, with these priorities and these circumstances and this particular set of things that matter to you today. And here's what I love about thinking about it this way, because it not only takes the pressure off the decision itself, but it also makes the decision clearer. Because instead of asking, what do I want to do for the rest of my life, which is an enormous, almost unanswerable question, you get to ask, what do I want my working life to look like in this next season? And that question has a much more specific, much more accessible answer. And if I think about the seasons that I've been in, when I was a radio producer at the BBC, that was right for that season and who I was right then. And when I left and changed direction and moved into advertising and strategy, that was right for that season of my life. And what I do now, helping women like you find their next chapter, this is right for this season of my life. And maybe it's not forever, but it's genuinely right for right now, and that is enough. So how do you actually figure out what's right for this season? Because I think it's worth spending a moment on this, because it's a different question to the one most people are asking themselves. Most people start by asking, what job should I do next? What industry? What role? What title? And these are important questions, but they're the last questions, not the first ones. The first question, the one that makes everything else clearer, is what does this next season of my life need to look like? Not just the work, the life. What matters to you right now that maybe didn't matter in the same way before? Is it flexibility, time with your family or for yourself? Is it meaning, work that connects to something you actually care about? Is it your health, your energy levels, how you feel at the end of the working day? Is it your finances, finally earning what you're worth or reducing pressure rather than always increasing it? Is it autonomy, being the person who decides rather than always waiting for permission? Every single one of you listening will have a different answer to those questions, and that's the point. Your next season is yours. It's not based on what looks impressive from the outside. It's not based on what your parents would be proud of or what your industry expects. It's based on what genuinely works for the life that you are actually living and the person you are actually becoming. When you get clear on what this season of your life needs, when you build what I call your life first criteria, then and only then do you start looking at what kind of work can help you live that way. And suddenly the options look different. Some things you'd ruled out become possible. Some things you'd been chasing start to look less essential. And the decisions get clearer. Life first, career second. Always. So I want to leave you today with something I'm calling a season audit, right? These are 3 questions I want you to sit with this week. Not to answer perfectly, just to let yourself think about. The first question is, what do I want to carry forward from the last season of my life? What do I want to carry forward from the last season of my life? This is because not everything gets left behind. There are skills, relationships, parts of yourself that you've built and that absolutely can come with you. Know what those are. They're your foundation. The second question is, what am I ready to leave behind? What am I ready to leave behind? What has belonged to a previous version of you, a previous set of circumstances, a previous version of success that you've been carrying into this season when it really doesn't fit anymore? Now, this one can take a bit of courage to answer honestly, but it is so worth asking yourself. And the third question, and this is one I really do want you to try and sit with, is what would make this next season feel truly mine? Not what should I do next, not what's the sensible choice, but what would make this next chapter feel like it was built for who I actually am right now in this season of my life. And you know what? I know I said 3, but I'm just going to add one more because I can't resist. If you're here in the UK and you're starting to feel that spring sun on your face and see the daffodils coming up, ask yourself this: what is it that I am most looking forward to blooming in this next season? What do I want to grow? What's the newness that I want to grow in this next season? Because remember this about seasons: they come and go whether you're ready or not. You cannot stop the seasons from changing. You can only decide how present you're going to be in the one that you're in. And the women who I see making the most impactful, meaningful career changes, in my experience, they are not the ones who had everything figured out before they started. They're the ones who decide to stop living in a season that was already over and to start paying attention to the one that was waiting for them. That could be you. It can absolutely be you. All right, that's it for this week's episode of the Career Change Studio. And if this resonated with you, I'd love it if you shared it with someone who might also need to hear it, because sometimes the best thing we can do for the people we care about is to offer them a new way of looking at something. And if you feel like you're ready to start doing this work properly, to really get clear on what this next season of your life looks like and build that career that genuinely fits it, then come and join me, because I've got a free masterclass coming up tonight. That's if you're listening on the day of release, which is Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2026. It's called Mindset Shifts for Successful Career Change. And I would love to see you there. The link to join is in the show notes. And if you're listening in the week following that, up to 7 days after that, you can always message me and I can send you a link of the replay of the masterclass. But if you're listening any later than a week, then you might have missed this masterclass. I do have them coming up pretty regularly, so just do keep an eye on my website and my Instagram to find out about the next masterclass. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found it useful today. I'm going to see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the season that you're in. Bye for now. And if you want to start making changes to your working life, come and talk to me. you can book a free consultation with me where we'll talk about your personal situation, what's really holding you back, and what you can do differently to start making changes. I'll let you know what type of career change coaching is going to help you, and you can ask me any questions about your personal situation or about my proven process, the Life First Career Method, a method that helps people like you change your career so that you can change your life. Just visit my website, danastevens.com. That's DANASTEVENS.com, and click on the link to book a consultation. Or you can find the link in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you get your weekly fix of inspiration and career change guidance by clicking follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to rate and review the podcast, that would really help me get this in front of people who also might be feeling stuck and lost, so I'd really appreciate your help. And if you know anyone, friends, family, even colleagues, who might be thinking about changing careers, please do share this podcast with them. You might just be the person that helps them change their lives for the better.